welcome to today's video. Today I'm going to show you part one of this entryway makeover, and we're going to focus on the inside of the house and how I built this reclaimed bench with scrap wood and how I decorated it so that it would be minimalist and still functional and somewhat cute, because let's face it, it didn't look very cute before. Alright, so if you want to see how I did it, just keep on watching. The first step is, of course, to paint this hallway. This color served us well. We liked it at the time when we painted the house, but obviously back then I didn't have as much experience with like aesthetics and trying to figure out my style and what I wanted it to be. But now that I do, I'm obviously going for a natural wood tones and very calm aesthetic. So we're gonna go with this off-white color, which is the same color that would painted the rest of the house. Don't worry, it's not gonna be boring. There's more coming to this.
When we were young, just you and me, feels like a dream, and happiness was free. We'd be in school.
So more than anything, I'm leaning towards lighter wood tones, and the bench will end up being a little bit darker than I wanted to, but I don't want it to be super matchy-matchy, and this dark stain had to go for this aesthetic look. So I'm removing the dark stain, sending it back to bare wood, and obviously you can see some of the grain retained some of the stain, which is fine. It helps with a little bit of contrasting, and then I'm going to wax it just to give it a little bit of sheen and protection. It's a coat rack. We already had it done. I'm just giving it a little update. It's late, but I didn't get to work on my projects today as much because of school, so I just want to get this done. Let's try and do that. I'm gonna try and put them in the same holes, so I'm having them stick out just a little bit so that I can have like a point of contact.
No tears left to cry, feeling helpless. Trust me when I say I've been there before, when I thought the world was ending, though you may feel nearby.
I need to add all of the hooks. And same thing, I'm going to put them exactly where they were.
But I'll always be there for you. You know I'll always be there. You know I'll always.
Okay, so a nice way I add some elegance and something to make this house not boring since it's white, you know, not like a rental apartment. But yeah, so something that I came up with is the idea that I wanted to have black doors. I feel like it elevates the house, and I have painted most of the doors around the house black. Everything is white, and I have a cute little accent wall as well, so that gives it a lot of interest. And I'm using this paint called 1 Hour Enamel from Wise Owl Paints. It hardens super quick, like within 2 hours. You can hang it back up and use it, and it's extremely durable. It's a little tricky to apply, but I love this paint. I used it on all the other doors, and that's what I'm using here as well. I do have to say that this paint works on doors that haven't been painted with oil base or latex before. If it was painted before, you can strip it, which is a lot of work, so I would suggest you stick with the kind of paint that you already have and just paint over that. But if you have brand new doors, this is absolutely the way to go. Okay, so obviously there is a ton of different ways you can do an entryway bench. I actually wanted this to be a console table, but being that this space is so small, it's only 4.5 feet wide, I still wanted to use this coat rack and having a console table would have made this come up really high, and if I put any decor, it would kind of take away from the functionality of coats actually hanging down from it and us being able to use it. So although I want it to look cute and aesthetically pleasing, I still need the functionality from it, so I opted for a bench. That, and Corey also wanted a bench so that he could put in his tie his shoes on. Most of the time I get to decide whatever I want to do with the house, but I figure why not give him what he wants. But also it's a lot more functional than having the console table, like I said. Of course, I always pin some post on Instagram or Pinterest of whatever the style I'm looking for and the vibe I want to find. Obviously, I don't have this kind of real estate. My house is only 1,500 square feet, so I don't have the space to make something like this work, but I can get the general aesthetic without necessarily using that much space. And of course, they are extremely expensive, and I didn't think I was going to be able to make it work. These are the ones that I found online, over $1,000 at least. So I thought I was gonna have to settle for this style, and these look like 4x4 posts. I figure I could find some reclaimed wood and I could make it work. So I posted on our neighborhood group page on Facebook, and luckily somebody replied and said they had some old fence posts. Okay, you guys are not gonna believe my luck. So I went to pick up the wood from the neighbors that told me that they had those reclaimed fence posts that I could have. And while I was there, my mother-in-law sent me a text message telling me that there was some construction across the street from her beach house, and I asked her to send me a picture, and she did, and it's exactly what I was looking for, or so I thought. I knew I wasn't gonna be able to get there until the weekend, and I know that they don't work during the weekends because it's a regulation, it's a beach town, and so they don't want to have those construction noises and trucks and dust and all of that during the weekend when people are trying to enjoy. So on Friday night, I texted my brother-in-law and asked him if I could have him go across the street and ask the people that were working there if we could have some of their scrap wood, and they said yes. So when I got there Friday night, well, next morning, Saturday, we went across the street and we looked through the stuff that they had, and I actually found exactly what I was looking for. I cannot believe it. I cannot believe it. Corey is always telling me to let the universe provide and to be patient, and I never listen because I am not a very patient person, but I am so glad that I did. What are the odds? I'm just so excited. So we asked the owners of this house, or the people that are working there, if we could have some of the scraps to build the project that I want to build, and they said yes, so we're gonna go get it. So that's the scrap pile. So they're actually a lot bigger than I thought. I think they're 14 by 14, but they might still work. I don't know if I find small ones. They are huge. Should we pick the smaller ones so we don't have to cut them? Maybe a tape measure?
You have to cut them regardless.
Okay. Could I pick one up? Okay. Yeah, okay. But also, I think I found my top. This is a really thick beam. I think it's 3 inches thick, so that'll be perfect. And whatever length that is, that's the length the bench will be. So they might be too big and we might not be able to use them, but since we're here, I'd rather have them, and then we'll put them by the side of the road if we end up not using them. But I don't want to regret not grabbing them when I had the chance. So we're doing that. I don't think Corey's very happy about it, but it's okay. You still love me?
Still love you.
Okay.
Trust me when I say I've been there before. Was ending. Though you may feel nearby but far away.
Okay, so I'm intimidated because I don't want the saw to get stuck or kick back, or I don't know how to clamp them and hold them in place.
You're not gonna have to clamp it. It's big enough, you're fine.
Okay.
So you're gonna start at the bottom and you're gonna score a line. And then you're gonna carry that line all the way across,
Okay.
and then you're gonna cut it. So basically you're trying to create a flat edge.
Okay.
And then once you get whatever you can get on all of them, then you're gonna do the same thing at the top.
Okay.
Get a flat edge. So you're basically trying to create two square edges on both sides.
Right, because we don't know if it's flat, and then this
Right.
side is ugly.
This
Very
side has
ugly.
obviously been beaten in.
Uh-huh.
That side, we don't know if it was cut off properly. That's probably, no, I take that back. This is probably the factory edge. So that's probably not a straight cut. So you probably have to make 4 different cuts.
Okay, so following Corey's instructions, I ended up clamping or nailing a straight edge onto the wood itself so that I could have something for my circular saw to write against and stay straight. My circular saw is 7¼ inches long, or the blade is, which means half of that only goes into the wood since it's a circle, and it ended up not being nearly deep enough for what I needed to cut. So it ended up being quite a task to cut through such wood without the appropriate tools, but I just made it work. I kept barking around and cutting with the circular saw, and I ended up switching to a reciprocating saw. Luckily, since this is a weather look wood, it doesn't matter if it comes out looking like rough, because we're gonna age it and distress it anyway.
Don't feel anxious, don't feel shame. If there's a question, it can't wait another day. Don't feel like it's all in vain. I try to remember, it ain't a race. Breathe out, it doesn't matter anyway.
The only thing that's left to do is actually to just cut the piece that I need to add on here, and then do the doweling, well, sand it and then stain it. But let's start with this. I'm gonna push it to the back to make it easier on myself. Okay. So that is, we're gonna say an inch. So 1 inch difference. Except on this side, which is totally not 1 inch. But we're gonna go with an inch and figure out the rest later.
Making mistakes. There's no need, it's just a game. Breathe out. It doesn't matter anyway. Breathe in. It's about happiness in the air. Take it slow, watch the road. Stop driving myself insane. End of the day. You got me in to go dreaming. You got me in to go dreaming. You got me in to go dreaming. It's just a feeling.
Okay, so hopefully you can tell, but what I'm doing here is cutting that sliver of wood that I need to add to my bench top. So it was about 1 inch short, and I found a 2x4 and ripped it to the thickness that I wanted it to. Then I sand it off, and then I'm going to clean it and glue it on to the top so that it could be the size that I need it to be. And after gluing it, I'm going to use a nail gun to nail it in place, and I'm going to clamp it. I'm definitely being extra with this, but I want it to stay on for sure.
To go dreaming. You got me in to go dreaming. It's just this feeling and I'm letting go. Breathe out. It doesn't matter anyway. Breathe in. It's about happiness in the air. Take it slow, watch the road. Stop driving myself insane. End of the day.
To make this brand new wood look aged and reclaimed, I'm going to use whatever I can find to make it feel that way. So I googled it, and a lot of the things that every website said is, you know, you need dents, you need scratches, you need wormholes and all of that. So I'm using chain, hammer, and axe. I'm doing the nails, like nailing it in to mimic wormholes, and I'm even using the sawzall to cut some pieces off of the edges so that it looks old and worn out. Of course it wouldn't be pretty, so that's what I'm doing here. And don't worry that the wood doesn't look the same color, none of it does. We'll take care of that later on.
Feels like a dream, and happiness was free. We'd be in school thinking I'm too cool, till 3:05. Nearby but far away, we've a long way to go, with a few bumps in the road, but I'll always be there for you.
Next, I drilled some holes. I happen to have a 3/4 inch dowel, so I drilled some 3/4 inch holes on the top and on the sides, like the legs, so that I could put the plugs in there and they would fit in and the bench would stay together without me needing to glue it. I could glue it, but it's so heavy that I feel like if I ever want to move it, I don't want to have to carry that such a big piece, and so I want it to come apart. But by putting in those dowels, I'm able to have it sit together and not separate, and I'm even able to slide it up and down wherever I need to slide it, and that's what I'm doing here, just putting in those dowels and making sure it fits properly. I'm gonna turn that out for a second because y'all can't hear me, but I'm also gonna put a apron on. If I haven't learned something, kids, is that I always manage to get paint or stain in my clothes, and most of the time I don't care, but I actually only have one good pair of shorts left, and so I can't allow that to happen. So next we're going to use, this is the stain I used for my patio set, and I made it, it's just water-based paint. It's a watered down paint wash, so I think I'm gonna try that and we'll see how that looks.
So special, so full of love and care, but it sometimes gets the best of you, forgetting who you love and who loves you.
So there's a ton of ways, but the main reason why I wanted to go with this super chunky one, it's because I feel like having a statement piece helps you whenever you're decorating with minimalist decor. That way you have a focal point, but also not having to crowd the space. So by doing the big chunky pieces of wood, I'm able to use that as decor itself, but also having it be functional. You can do other styles. I love the slatted wood look, or you just plain reclaim, but this is the style I chose to go with. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and let me show you the final pictures. Today is the day I finally get to style the bench that I just finished, and I am going to try and do it using everything I already have. I don't want to keep buying more stuff that always ends up cluttering the house, and also it's just wasteful. So I'm gonna try to style it with things that I have around the house. There is one thing I want to buy, and I'm going to keep an eye out whenever I go to the thrift store to see if I can find exactly what I want or something that I can upcycle, and that is a large format vase like this one. And so I'm gonna try to do the best that I can with what I have, and also keep in mind that I want this to be functional. It's already a very narrow space, only 4.5 feet, so I don't want to be bumping into things whenever we come in from the grocery store, carrying bags and all of that stuff. It needs to be aesthetically pleasing, but more than anything, it needs to be functional. So we're gonna go with minimal decor and just functionality, but hopefully we can still make it cute.
Don't regret making mistakes. there's no need, it's just a game. Breathe out, it doesn't matter anyway. Breathe in, it's about happiness in the air. Take it slow, watch the road, stop driving myself insane. The end of the day, you got me into go dreaming. You got me into go dreaming. You got me into go dreaming. It's just this feeling and I'm letting go.
Okay, that is it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe and follow me on Insta, and stay tuned for part 2, and it will be how we do the outside of the entryway, and that should be coming up next. Okay, I can love you, goodbye.